Hello everyone, I Professor Bhavik Kumar M. Kataria welcomes you into the video series of Computer Networks, and we are discussing unit number 3, Transport Layer. Till today we have discussed unit number 1 and 2. Unit number 1 was Introduction to Computer Network and unit number 2 was Application Layer. Today we will discuss multiplexing and demultiplexing, as well as we will discuss connectionless transport, which is achievable by the help of UDP, user datagram protocol, and connection oriented transport by the help of TCP, transmission control protocol. In our last session, we have discussed transport layer services. Get it? So, which are the transport layer services? Mainly, transport layer is used for process-to-process communication. So, that is the main motto of transport layer. And basically, it is responsible for the service point addressing, segmentation and reassembly. In terms of service point addressing, we have discussed 3 types of addressing techniques like port addressing, IP addressing and MAC addressing. So port addressing is done through the transport layer, IP addressing done through the network layer, and MAC addressing done through the data link layer. Segmentation and reassembly. Whenever we are wrapping the data by adding the header, so that thing is known as a segmentation, and whenever we are unwrapping the data by removing the header, that is known as a reassembly. Get it? So segmentation and reassembly both is responsibility of transport layer. Connection control is also functionalities of transport layer, flow control and error control. These are the features of transport layer. Today we are going to discuss multiplexing and demultiplexing, as well as UDP and TCP. So we will discuss these 3 topics today. Now let's start with the multiplexing. For the multiplexing, one device is used, and that is known as a MUX. MUX is used for the multiplexing, whereas DMUX is used for the demultiplexing. Now, if we will look about the basic concept of multiplexing, so why there is a need of multiplexing? Look like, suppose we want to transmit the many channels in a single medium, like we are using air as a medium. So we want to broadcast the multiple signals, like you are using the mobile phone nowadays. So you are receiving the connection of various companies, get it? Like BSNL, Vodafone, Idea, Airtel, get it? So these companies are broadcasting the service, and medium is single, that is air. All are transmitting the signals into the air, get it? So how this thing is possible? So this thing is possible by the help of multiplexing. In case of multiplexing, MUX is combining all the channels in a single medium, get it? And at the end of the receiver side, I mean at a destination side, there is a one device which is known as a DMUX, and DMUX is separating the whole number of channels to the particular user or for the particular receiver. So that is the basic fundamental. Whatever the number of channels are there, here in figure you are able to know that there are n number of different channels which is gathered by the MUX, and MUX is transmitting into the single medium towards the destination side, and at a destination side DMUX will receive this entire signal and distributing it into the number of different channels for a different user. So that is the main key idea of multiplexing. Now if we will look where multiplexing is used, So multiplexing is used for the both type of signals, analog as well as digital. In terms of analog signals, we are using two techniques. First one is frequency division multiplexing and another one is wavelength division multiplexing. Whereas in terms of digital signal, we are using two techniques, that is time division multiplexing and asynchronous time division multiplexing. So today we will discuss 2 or 3 techniques out of these 4. So let's see first about the frequency division multiplexing. In terms of frequency division multiplexing, entire channel is divided into the n number of frequencies. Suppose there is n channels, like there is a 10 number of channels is there. So here total space is divided into the 10 parts, and all user can use that particular part. Get it? So whatever the capacity we have, suppose we have a capacity of 50 Mbps. Get it? And we are dividing the every part with the 5 Mbps. I multiply by 10. Get it? So here each channel will get the 5 Mbps capacity. Get it? So each channel can transmit with the speed of 5 Mbps. So these are the distribution like from the total space. Get it? This thing is known as a frequency division multiplexing. We are assigning a different frequency to the different channels. Get it? Like someone is transmitting on 5 to 10 megahertz. Someone is transmitting from 11 to 15 megahertz. Like someone is transmitting from 16 to 20 megahertz and so on. Get it? So that is the thing, frequency always measured in terms of hertz. Get it? So we are dividing frequency in from the total space. So that is the better example for the common understanding. So do not take this one as a seriously with the division of 5 Mbps. So that I said about the just for common understanding. Now another one is a time division multiplexing. So if we will look about the time division multiplexing, so here we are dividing entire channel into the various number of time slots. Suppose there is a n number of channels, so we will divide it into the n time slots. Suppose there is a 5 channels are there, so we will divide our total capacity into the 5 different time slots. It means like from this point of time to this point of time, user 1 is sending the data in channel, whereas into the second time slot, user 2 is transmitting, whereas in third time slot, user 3 is transmitting. In terms of fourth time slot, user 4 is transmitting, and in terms of fifth time slot, user 5 will transmitting. So there is no chance of clashing because everyone transmitting the data into the different time slots. Get it? So everyone can use the total space. Here we are dividing the total space for the different user. Get it? So there is every users are getting the less capacity, but in that case everyone can get the full capacity of channel, but it is for the particular amount of time. That is not the permanent allocation. After completion of that particular time slot, that user have to left the channel and another user will use the channel for their own use. Get it? So that is the division like that in terms of time division multiplexing. Now For the FDM, if we will look how we are able to combine the n number of channels. So there is one device is known as a modulator, which is doing the modulation of signal. Modulator is responsible for the modulation of signals. Correct. Now, in terms of modulation, if we will look, so there is one carrier signal is there, and which is carrying the data. Get it? So one is data signal, and another one is a carrier signal. So always carrier signal will carry the data. So whatever the data is there, we will put that data into the carrier signal, and carrier signal will carry that particular data. So that is the modulation, and after doing the modulation, whole number of signals are gathered into the one common frequency, and that thing is known as a multiplexing, which is done by the MUX. Get it? So MUX will combine all the signals in a one frequency. Get it? Now here whatever the different types of data are there, we have put those number of data into the carrier signal, that is the modulation. Same thing when the receiver will receive the data. Get it? So this thing is happen into the reverse direction. Whenever DMUX will separate the all of the transmitted signals. So demodulator will demodulate the signal. It means it will differentiate the data signal and carrier signal again. So from the carrier signal, it will extract the actual data, and by filtering the data, demodulator will allocate the particular data to particular user. It means it will allocate the data to the actual receiver. So that is the process of demultiplexing in FDM. Now, what's happened in terms of time division multiplexing? In terms of frequency division multiplexing, it is consider here frequency. That is frequency division multiplexing. For the every frequency, there is a guard band in between the two frequencies. Like if you will consider FM channels like Red FM, Top FM, Radio Mirchi, or anyone else. Get it? Suppose FM channel 1 is transmitting on 92 Hertz. Get it? And Top FM is transmitting into the 95 Hertz. And Radio Mirchi is transmitting into the 98 Hertz. So there is a gap between two channels. Get it? 93 and 94 are free here, 96 and 97 are free. So this gap is known as a guard band. This gap is known as a guard band. Why we are putting this gap? Because if we will start continuously, like Red FM, we are allocating Red FM to 92 and Top FM to 93. That is continuous allocation. I am taking the round figure. Maybe there is a 92.4 or 92.3 or 92.5 sequence allocation. Get it? So if we will allocate continuously, so maybe there is a chance to mix up the frequency of each other. Get it? Like whenever you will tune the frequency, so you will be able to listen two channels at a one point. Get it? So that is the mixing of signals. So to reduce this type of mixings, we are putting the guard bands. These are the empty frequencies. So no one is transmitting on this frequency. So this frequency is separating from one channel to another channel and avoid the mixing of signals. That's why we are using the guard bands. So that is the fundamental question can be asked to you. What is the need of guard bands in frequency division multiplexing? Get it? Now let's see next. There is a time division multiplexing. So here we are dividing our data into the different time slots. So here there is a frame 1 which is carrying the number of different time slots. Frame number 2 which is again various time slot. Get it? So n slots in each frame. Every frame carrying the n number of slots. Now what's happened in terms of time division multiplexing? So whenever transmitter is transmitting, so there is total four piece with the user A. Get it? So first it will place it into the first frame, second frame, third frame and fourth frame. Get it? B has a 3 pieces. So B will put in first frame, second frame and third frame. 2 block of C. So in first frame and second frame and only 1 block of D. So we will put it on first frame. But whatever the blocks are not available with the B, C and D, so these pairs are going empty. It means this type of slots are going to be wastage. Like whenever you are traveling by bus or train, so whatever the seats are empty, no one traveling on that particular seats. So that is the wastage of resources. Same thing is here. Now, same thing it is at receiver's end. These are the empty slots. Get it? So to overcome this limitation of time division multiplexing, there is asynchronous time division multiplexing. In terms of asynchronous time division multiplexings, we are combining whole number of slots together like this. Get it? So whatever the empty slots were there, we are allocating to the next senders. So thing is look like waiting seats in railways. Whenever you are going to book the seat in railway, so if ticket is not available, so you are getting the waiting ticket. And if someone is not traveling on actual day of journey, so that empty seats are going to be allocated to the next traveler. Get it? So look like that there is a asynchronous time division multiplexing, which will overcome the limitation of wastage time slot in time division multiplexing. One more type is that wavelength division multiplexing. So it is your homework to study about wavelength division multiplexing. As well as also compare this type of multiplexing techniques with each other. Get it? By making one tabular form. Get it? So choose the few parameters and according to those number of parameters you are suggested to make the comparison of various techniques. So that is the address format of time division multiplexing. That is there is a data length of particular data, how much longer that particular block, and the address of senders and receivers. That are the information regarding to the satellite of IRS series, and another one is a INSAT series. So hope it will be useful to you. So for which purpose there is a particular satellite is there. Get it? So that are the general informations. It is not for the exam perspective, but whenever someone is asking to you as a software or computer engineer, so you can reply that a particular satellite is for this work. Get it? Now, mostly electronics engineers are working as well as IT engineers are working on satellite communication. So that is for the general purpose information. So hope it is useful to you. Another topic, that is user datagram protocol. So if we will look for the location of user datagram protocol, so UDP is located here in transport layer. Total 3 protocols are there: SCTP, TCP and UDP. SCTP is not in our syllabus, so we are not going to discuss SCTP. We will discuss UDP as well as TCP. Now, what are the functionalities of user datagram protocol? Actually, it is a connectionless services. Get it? UDP is used for the connectionless services. It means there is no need to establish a connection earlier, like circuit switching. Get it? So it is look like a packet switch. So first thing, there is a process-to-process communication by port number. That is the responsibility of UDP. Control mechanism at transport level. Whatever the controlling is required, that is done by the UDP always. Another thing, no flow control or no acknowledgement in case of UDP. So we can't do any type of flow control and any type of acknowledgement in case of UDP. So that is the limitation of UDP. It is a limitation of user datagram protocol. It is doing error control up to some level, not fully supporting the error control. Now, that is the header format of UDP for the end-to-end transport layer. So there is 32-bit header and there is 8 to 65,535 bytes. That is our actual data, and 8 byte is a header. So 8 multiplied by 4 is equal to 32 bits. 1 byte is equal to 4 bit. That's you have to keep in mind always. 1 byte is equal to 4 bit. Here there is a 8 bit header. So 8 multiplied by 4, there is a total 32 bit header. Data is carrying the actual information, whatever user want to send, whereas header is carrying look like if you will describe here totally source port address, destination port address, and checksum for the security purpose. Generally flags are used over there. Total length, how much data is long, which segment is what are the starting point of particular segment and ending point of particular segment, like that. So these are the information carried by the header. All number of layers are adding the header, like transport layer is adding the segment header as a transport header. Another one, network layer is also adding header on data. Data link layer is also adding header on data. So here 0 to 16 bit is for the source port number and total length. 16 to 31 bit, there is a destination port number and checksum. So it is the actual allocation of 32 bit used by the UDP. That is for the UDP. Now, next one, there is a TCP. TCP stands for the Transmission Control Protocol, and it is a connection oriented transport, whereas UDP was the connection less transport. So again, it is a location of TCP. TCP is located at transport layer. UDP we have already discussed, and as per our discussion, SCTP is not in syllabus. So that is our last topic of today's session, transmission control protocol. Now, what are the services provided by the TCP? So first thing, there is a process-to-process communication. Again, it is produced by the UDP and TCP both. Stream delivery services, that is the main key aspect of TCP. Full duplex communication, multiplexing and demultiplexing done by the TCP, connection-oriented services, and reliable service. Multiplexing and demultiplexing we have already discussed in our today's session. In our next session or next lecture, we will discuss reliable services. Put it. Now, connection-oriented and connection-less we have already understand during the lecture of switching techniques. Get it? So now you are able to understand what is the key difference between UDP and TCP. If you will look about the stream delivery services, so TCP is producing continuous stream of bytes. Get it? It means data is not divided into the several number of different blocks. Get it? So that is the stream of bytes. It is carrying the particular block of entire data. Get it? So continuous stream, one by one, there is a data is traveling into the continuous stream. That is the stream of data inside the channel or a medium. Get it? So that is a continuous flow of data bits. This thing is known as a stream delivery service. And both sides there is a sending and receiving buffers. Suppose buffers are for the flow controls. Like sender is faster and receiver is slower, so we can control the flow by using the receiving buffer. It is sending the data into the continuous segment. Buffers and segment in TCP. So let's see how segment is going to be put continuously. These are the number of segment already sent. That is a continuous stream of number of segments. So segment number 1, 2 and 3 were actually sent over into the channel. So 1, 2 and 3 are in path. So here there is fourth one is arriving in, fourth one is in queue. These are the segments 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. These are in queue. So whenever channel is become a free, or like first segment will receive a destination, so fourth segment will be placed here. It is depend on window. So we will discuss stop and wait protocol, sliding window protocol. In terms of sliding window, there is a go back in and selective repeat. So that is depends on window size. Like window is with the size of 3. So right now segment 1, 2 and 3 are traveling. Whenever 1 will reach a destination, so 2, 3 and 4 is traveling. Whenever 2 will reach a destination, so one new segment will arrive, 5th one, and 3, 4 and 5 are in the channel. So these are the continuous process. Now our TCP features. So it is producing the numbering system like byte number, sequence number, acknowledgement number. Byte number is total size of each segment or each block. Sequence number, from which number to which number data is available. Like I am allowing 10 students for the first round of exam. So enrollment number of starting first student and enrollment number of ending 10th student. So same thing is sequence here, from starting segment to ending segment. Acknowledgement number, how many segments are arrives. Flow control and error control we have already discussed while discussing the transport layer services. Let's see one example so you can understand what is the sequence number. Like Suppose a TCP connection is transferring a file of 5000 bytes. Size of file is 5000 bytes. The first byte is numbered 10001. 10001 is a first sequence number. So what are the sequence numbers? For each segment, if data are sent in 5 segments, total we have to send entire data into the 5 segments. Total data with the 5000 byte, each carrying 1000 byte. So we have to divide each segment with the 1000 byte. So we are putting the data in first segment from the 10001 and range is for the 10,001 to 11,000. Total 1000 bytes are there. Total size is 1000 bytes. Get it? And segment number 2 will start from the 11,001. So that is the sequence number. That is the byte number. Total 1000 bytes. And sequence is from here it is starting from the 10,001, it is starting from the 11,001, 12,001, 13,001 and 14,001. Last byte will be 15,000. So total we will be able to send 5,000 byte multiply by 1000 multiply by 5 seconds. So total we will be able to send 5,000 byte data. Okay. So let's see the format of segment and how TCP segment is look like. So this TCP segment is again carrying two things like UDP segment. First part is data and another one is a header. Get it? So let's see the what header is producing. There is a 16-bit source port address, 16-bit destination port address, sequence number of 32 bits, acknowledgement number of 32 bits. Few bytes are like for the some of the particular use, like that is header length of 4 bits, that 6 bits are reserved, that is the for the urgent pointer. It is for the acknowledgement, it is for the push, it is for the reset, synchronization, that is for the apply and for the finish. Get it? So that is the use of particular specific task. Window size of 16-bit and urgent pointer which is carrying 16-bit, checksum carrying 16 bits, and there is a few portions are left empty for the options and heading. So that is the format of TCP segment header. What is the information carrying by the TCP header? Another thing, encapsulation is a functionality of transport layer or TCP, transmission control protocol. Get it? So we have already discussed the encapsulation in transport layer services, so no need to discuss again. If you are still remain to watch our earlier session of services of transport layer, so you can click here on I button at top right corner and you can watch a particular video of services of transport layer. So these are the particular port and protocols which are using for the specific reason, like port number 20 and 21, which is used for the file transfer protocol, FTP. FTP stands for the file transfer protocol. Get it? Same thing, port number 80. Again, it is a well-known port used by the HTTP hypertext transfer protocol for the web. So these are the various number of ports, various number of protocols and use of that particular protocol. I mean, it's a description. So learn this entire protocols, which port number is used by the which protocol, like that is a terminal network, simple mail transfer protocol, domain name system and many more. So hope you are understanding today's session very well. If you have any query or any doubts, you can make comment on comment box. I will try my best to solve out your queries. In our next session, we will discuss reliable data transfer. Thank you very much.